Hello everybody and welcome to my channel for another video. Today's format is quite a bit different to usual. I'm just going to start a new series where I interview people who have interesting travel stories or transport stories. So if you want to be interviewed by me, then let me know in the comment section below, and that's something we could arrange. So today we have Patricia with us, who has an interesting story. So Patricia is from the UK, and she lived in Cameroon in Africa, which she's going to tell us about today. So Patricia, can you just briefly tell us about how someone from the UK, I believe from Yorkshire, ended up living in Cameroon in the early 80s.
Yeah, hi Lee, hi everyone. Yes, it is quite interesting really. I worked at the time for the Foreign Office and got sent around to different countries, and it was I'd already been to Holland, I'd been to the Hague in Netherlands and to Germany for a little bit, and I was very excited to see where on earth they were going to send me next. And I was quite surprised to find out I was being sent to a place called Yaounde, which I wasn't even sure how to pronounce and even less sure how to spell. But I've since got that down to a fine art and found out it was the capital of Cameroon in West Africa. So that's how I came to get a 2-year posting to Cameroon, and the adventure really started from that moment.
Okay. When was that? When did you? When were you sent to Cameroon?
I was sent to Cameroon in 1981, early 1981.
Okay, so you were there from 1981 till 1983. Is that right?
That's right.
So before we talk about that, your experience in Cameroon, obviously it's quite a change, as you just mentioned there, from the European countries that you'd been previously sent to. So what was the reaction like from your friends and family when you told them that you were planning on going to Cameroon?
I think that my friends and family were quite excited for me, in the sense that they knew I liked to go somewhere maybe a little bit different, somewhere I wouldn't normally go. Although people had heard of Cameroon, I think the name of Yaounde wasn't a place that people generally had heard of. I think my parents were pleased. They knew because they knew I was excited. They were somewhat worried. It was a long, still quite young. It was a long way to go. It was for a 2-year sort of stint, with possibly maybe a break in between after a year, but it was a long way to go. And it was different times then, obviously, without the communication that we have now. It was before mobile phones, before the internet. So there was some concerns there, but they knew that I was excited to go, so they supported me as much as they could. And we all, I think my mum, the first thing she did was to find out how to spell Yaounde. That was the first thing, and looked it up in the and sort of on the globe, or the atlas as we had then, to find out exactly where it was.
So you mentioned you were young. How old were you exactly when you went to?
Oh, well, when I went to Cameroon, I was in my early 20s.
Early 20s, okay. And now obviously this was in the days before the internet. So nowadays, if someone gets sent somewhere, they could do some research on it, just by opening up their computer, laptop, whatever. And obviously you weren't able to do that. So were you able to do any research at all on Yaounde in Cameroon before you went, or was it completely going into the unknown?
Well, you could obviously look in the sort of, I suppose, encyclopedia type books as it was there. I think I did actually go to the library to find out a bit more. But just even, it seems such a long time ago now, but just even in the atlas, you know, the world atlas, there was generally quite a bit of information as well about countries. But I did get a lot of information actually from the Foreign Office, because obviously they're sending people to, you know, to foreign parts, wherever they may be. So, you know, the basic information, sort of about living, and, you know, what you can, what you can't do, and things like that, was provided to me anyway. But I did do more research. But yeah, it was certainly more difficult to do that than it would be now.
Okay, and now getting on to your time in Cameroon itself. So can you tell me what your first impressions were from the moment you landed at the airport?
First impressions was intense heat, humidity, actually, once the aircraft opened. And I remember, you know, you arrive on the tarmac, you're not sort of, you come down the steps, and you're literally, you know, it was very, very hot. It hits you right in the face. And, you know, it felt like I really had arrived clearly in a foreign land. I hadn't done anything like that before. So it was a sense, I suppose, it was excitement on one hand, and a sense of, you know, some nervousness as to quite how, you know, how this was going to be for me. But it worked out fine.
Okay.
And I did remember being met in by somebody, so that was
Okay, so
equally.
you say you were met by somebody. So were you sent there on your own, or was there like a group of you that were sent there at the same time?
I was sent there on my own, so I travelled alone, arrived on my own. Yeah.
Okay, and if we could just briefly talk about your living arrangements. So did I take it then your employer you know, provided you with somewhere to live? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I initially stayed with a colleague. I mean, who obviously I didn't know anybody from there, but stayed temporarily with somebody else from the office, and then I moved into sort of a little villa, I suppose you could call it, because, you know, I was very fortunate, and I'd been sent there, and so as an employer, that I was provided accommodation. So I wasn't, you know, it was just very, very different, completely different way of life for me. And I just was eager to get into, you know, just to experience everything that I could.
Okay, so let's now talk about your experiences with the people. Now, were you quite segregated from the, you know, the kind of everyday people, or were you, I don't know, going to markets and walking around the city and mingling with local people?
It was a mixture of both. Because the type of place I was working, it sort of people tended, which still may happen, tended to stick together. So like the staff where I was working, we would also sort of make friends and socialise with people working in similar offices but from other countries. So there was an element of that. But I was always, wherever I went, I was always keen to do that, but also to try to, you know, involve myself more in that sort of wherever I was locally. And we had, there was a Cameroonian girl who I got quite friendly with in the office. So I did, you know, go a few places with her, and she showed me around around the city of the town quite a bit. And I did sort of, you know, go around quite a bit, but it was obviously, it's very much hustle and bustle, you know, in the markets. On my own, probably didn't feel that I was that confident at really doing that. But I did do it a few times with this girl that I was sort of friendly with.
And
But
so if I could just ask, how did the people react to you when you were with your friend? Did you get a lot of attention? Or did people kind of not really bother you?
people didn't really bother me, because in Cameroon at the time, I mean, I don't know what the situation now is, there were very, very many French nationals living there, you know, huge amounts of French. So there were French people running sort of shops and eating places and all sorts of things. Very large French population, or certainly where I was in Yaounde. So obviously, I wasn't that conspicuous, you know, sort of white-faced young female in, you know, say in the market, predominantly, you know, black Cameroonians. But so and generally, I actually found I got on sort of very well. I got on very well with the people. You know, we sometimes, my colleagues, we used to go to music places, eating places. You know, all run by local Cameroonians, and you know, it was fun. We were welcomed. I never had any hostility or any feeling of discomfort.
Okay, that's good. Now, obviously, Africa is known for its poverty, and I guess especially in the early 80s. So, what was the infrastructure of Yaounde and generally Cameroon like? Was it really in a bad state, or what? What was it like there?
Well, it was, as compared to maybe some of the other countries in Africa, Cameroon at the time didn't have the poverty, or not the noticeable poverty, that some other African countries had. Actually, it was quite it had some wealth there. Infrastructure was not great. I mean, the roads, you know, which made life difficult, obviously, if people going from place to place. The roads were very, very bad. You know, potholes everywhere. So for everybody, you know, obviously for local people, for work-wise, they really needed to stay in the city or town they were in. It was very difficult to travel very easily, certainly on the roads. You know, there was no, there appeared to be plenty of food. Markets were always, from what I could see, quite well stocked. I mean, I was very fortunate, and I say it's different times completely to life as I would ever know it. But at the little house where I lived, I had somebody that helped out with the market shopping, and with, you know, it was called Felix. You know, he was employed. He was employed by the employer to provide support for the staff.
And did he cook as well?
He cooked. He provided. He cooked breakfast, which I've never, you know, the excitement, the best speciality was banana pancakes, because actually I had banana tree or plant, whatever it's called, in the garden. So he used to say, "Your favourite, miss?" You know, banana pancakes. And he also used to cook lunch, because we had a 2-hour lunch break. That's how the hot country, that's how it was there. We started very early in the morning and had a 2-hour lunch break, and the expectation was that you went home at lunchtime and then obviously came back. And so he'd do that. but I met his family, you know, but he used to tell me of the challenges there, of things like a lot of the people working in Yaounde, probably any of the towns there, were really from the villages. They were from the surrounding villages, and they came into Yaounde, you know, obviously for work, and that was when it was obviously difficult with the bad roads. And he was trying to, you know, build a house. You know, he was trying to sort of like in the village for his family, and sometimes if the heavy rains came, it was the monsoon season, it would be a difficult time, because then, you know, all the things would go wrong and everything. So it was a challenge. But he was, and the others that I knew that sort of, you know, in my sort of colleagues' houses, and some of our staff at the office, you know, that they always had the biggest grin on their face. You know, they were sort of really nice people, and yeah, all had lovely families. You know, we tried as individuals to help them out as much as, you know, we could, particularly if we found out that something had gone wrong with their house and they may just need a little bit extra. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned there about it's difficult to travel to other places because of the bad roads, but did you travel anywhere else apart from where you worked and lived in Yaounde?
Well, the main way of traveling actually was, if you wanted to get from Yaounde to Douala. Yaounde is the capital, but Douala is the sort of commercial capital, and, you know, hustle bustle more than Yaounde actually, because Yaounde is sort of the government capital. To get there routinely, it's on you fly. I mean, flying from Yaounde to Douala was like a bus service, if you see what I mean. They were just very, very regular. It was chaotic in many ways, and it was just a very busy, you know, and that was just the way of traveling. It wasn't, you know, I don't know how safe it was. I was young and fairly carefree, and I'm not sure I thought too much about the safety elements, but it seemed, you know, as far as I'm aware, the safety record has been, you know, okay.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask about the safety. So you were just sort of piling onto these presumably quite old planes, where you then, for a quick,
yeah, I
quick
mean,
hop.
Quick hop. It was sort of a quick hop. It was, and they were very, very regular, but, you know, they did what they needed to do, and as far as I'm aware, got people safely there and safely back. But in terms of traveling anywhere else, you know, people did travel by road. Of course, you can still, well, certain times of the year you can't. The roads are impassable when it's the you know, the heavy rains, the monsoon season. But when it's not monsoon, you can travel, or, you know, by what's it called, sort of Land Rover, which I did. I have done. Well, I wasn't driving, of course, but that kind of thing. But the local people, you would see on sort of like trucks and things, open trucks, just cram packed with people, and presume, you know, trying to get from obviously one place to another. But it was certainly would be a bumpy ride, and quite a difficult ride. But, you know, I guess that is what they did. It was, you know, it got them from one place to the other.
Okay, and just getting back to the situation with the local people. So, how did you communicate with them? What is their language?
Well, Cameroon is a bilingual country. It's French speaking and it's English speaking. And there are also, I think, I can remember correctly, there's about 200 tribal languages. Well, where I was in Yaounde, it was predominantly French speaking, and Douala, which I think is on the west side, the west side, whatever it is, yeah, the west side, is mainly English speaking. When I say English, it's like, I think it's sort of like the pidgin English type of thing, as with the French. Well, my French wasn't great, but in Yaounde, I had to, you know, use bits of French, bits of English. It depended who you were talking to, because some sort of bureaucracy and in those sort of places they were French speaking. But for instance, Felix and many of the locals, because they were obviously from other parts of the country, a lot of them were English speaking, and they used to use quite old-fashioned words that used to surprise me. For instance, I remember when I went to collect my drive my car for the first time. That was another story, but anyway, I was nervous. I was very nervous. It's the first car I've ever had. A Renault 4, as it was. I went with a member of staff from the embassy. It was like I don't quite know what it was. I think it was like something to do with driving. It was part of that thing. And I got in the car and I turned it on, and he said, "Miss, you need to be very prudent," which is obviously careful, but it's quite I was surprised at that. I always remember that. I said, "Don't worry, I'll be very prudent." I think he was more nervous than I was, because I was, driving this car out. So he was, their English was quite, they had some of those sorts of words which you wouldn't expect. But
they were quite posh.
But they spoke, their own tribal languages. With each other, but obviously French and English was what I used.
Okay, so you mentioned there you had a car, your first ever car. So what was the driving experience in Cameroon like?
Well, combined with my lack of driving knowledge and practice, and the chaos of the chaos of the driving there, it was interesting, put it that way. But it was actually it was fine. It was fine, but just very busy. It's sort of a bit chaotic, taxis and things, and sort of the rules, were a bit hit and miss. Luckily, I never had any misses, but I was a new driver. So I just took it in my stride. I had no choice. But I don't ever remember using any public transport while I was, apart from those planes, because buses were just really, I would have been out of place on a bus, if you know what I mean. They were crammed, packed, and trains as well. Trains was, I think there were some trains there, but not from Yaounde. I don't think there could have been trains from Yaounde, but there probably were some somewhere in the country. It just was, so we really needed a car.
Okay.
Just the office.
Okay, so you had your own car. So were you provided with the car, or did you have to buy it?
No. So,
And did it have diplomatic number plates?
No, because I wasn't. It didn't. I wasn't. I was like in a sort of administrative type role and some of the consular things. So I wasn't classed as a diplomat, but because I was in the consular, you know, as part of the consular service. I had CC, that meant Consular Corps, on mine. I was very proud of that. But I loved my car. It was one of those where the gear, you know, the gear lever is on the is quite high up, and yeah, I did. I sort of got the hang of it. But it took a little while, and I remained prudent. I took the advice of my Cameroonian colleague.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, so far everything has been very positive, but did you have any negative experiences? Or something that stands out, something that wasn't so good?
Well, I think with any sort of thing like that, you know, and obviously the lack of communication really was at times difficult, you know, for me, like to sort of, you know, be in contact with home and things like that. So I was quite young. Generally, it was a very positive experience, because I was determined to make it a positive experience. You know, I knew I'd been given this chance in a place, in a country that I knew very little about, and, you know, may not have that opportunity again to sort of visit. But generally, I didn't really have sort of negative things. Don't really remember, you know, which that's not to say that there were obviously I'm sure there were difficult experiences, but they've gone maybe to the back of my mind. I never had difficulty with you know, any of the people. Oh no, there was no. I have something has come back to me. There. My handbag, that's right. My handbag was stolen. That's right. I do. Yeah, no. There was a lot of yeah, because it was hot. Sitting, if you sat in a cafe or something, as in, you know, as anyway, you know, you sat outside, and I was doing so with friends, colleagues, and I realised that it was a child, or, you know, not an adult, had snatched my bag, and sort of ran after them, which was never really good. I was never really going to catch them, which indeed I didn't. The outcome of that was that they did just they just dumped my bag somewhere, which I found, but, you know, the contents were empty from it. Even that, but, you know, that's only just come to mind because I was sort of trying to think of something negative, but that was the only. And you just learn from that, you know, that you just sort of learn, don't you, that, well, you know, be a bit more. I need to be more careful. If you know, I don't know, maybe it's been on the floor, but I can't remember quite how that happened. Just needed to be more careful. It can happen anywhere. It can happen here. I mean, absolutely anywhere. I did get the bag back.
Okay, and what about maybe your best memory, the most memorable thing that you can remember about Cameroon?
Oh, that's a tricky one, isn't it?
Or just a nice experience that you cherish?
A nice experience. I'll tell you one thing. There was one place I really, really did love going to, and it was a place called Cribby. I don't know how you should Cribby, and it was near Douala, and it was like paradise in that, you know, it was by the sea, and, you know, it was beautiful trees, and there was a little bit of beach, and it was hardly anybody went there. Sure, it's not like that now, and it was just beautiful, you know, it really was beautiful. And also, you know, because the it's Cameroon is some of it is quite hilly, and I also used to like going to because Yaounde is on a hill. There was like a high place you could go and see the views and things like that. But I've got fond memories of Cameroon. You know, if I see them playing football, I'll always be supporting Cameroon. It treated me very, very nicely. The people were kind, never had any upset with them. And I've got really sort of happy memories of dancing with them in chicken bars, you know, chicken places when I went with obviously other people. And
So what's a chicken bar?
Well, fried chicken is what it was very, very popular there. So we used to go to, it was like going into somebody's small house, you know, that was the eating place. And you used to sit, I don't think it was on the floor, but you used to sit sort of low down with fried chicken, and you would just, you know, eat it with your hands, and that you'd finish, obviously that was part of it. And beer, used to do, you know, a lot of beer, trottoir as it was known. And then there'd be the you know, the really really powerful beat of African music. I mean, that was lovely. You know, everybody, you just danced, and they'd really dance with feeling. It was, you know,
Okay.
nice memories.
So yeah, well, thanks Patricia for sharing your memories there of Cameroon. I can see it's holds very dear with you. So you say you left in Cameroon in 1983. So you said you were posted there for 2 years. So I guess you didn't have a choice. That was just the end of your posting, and you had to leave, right? Or not? Could you have
You
stayed?
have to. You don't have a choice. It was time to leave. Yeah.
Okay. And have you been back to Cameroon since?
I've never been back to Cameroon, and in some ways, part of me would like to, and the other part, I think I savour the memory of how it was then for me. And things change. I mean, it's moved on, clearly. I mean, they didn't have television then, they've obviously got television now, things like that. You know, I've never had the opportunity to go back, and I'm happy with the lasting memories that I've got of it, actually.
Okay, so just before we finish, is there anything you want to say to any viewers who possibly are watching this from Cameroon, Cameroonian people?
I'd like to say thank you for making me very welcome in your warm country. I've happy memories of it, and I wish you all well, and I hope you're keeping safe in these in these times. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Patricia, for sharing your story there. So if you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up. And as I said at the beginning of the video, if anybody else wants to share their travel stories that they've experienced in their lives, then yeah, get in contact with me and we can arrange that. Not a problem. So yeah, thank you once again, Patricia, and goodbye, everybody. See you.